Your kind doesn't belong on this lake. Pack up and leave, or I'll make sure you regret every second you stay here. That's how it started. Those were the words I heard, cold as a slap, at 7 in the morning on my own dock, from a woman I'd never even met, standing there like she owned the sunrise. Bethany Morrison, with nails sharp as her tongue and a suit that probably cost more than my first truck, pointing at my moving boxes while her little army of HOA board members filmed everything, badges catching the early light. You have 24 hours before we start legal eviction, she went on, and it wasn't an empty threat. Her voice just cut through the mist and told me she'd done this before. Thing is, she had no idea what she'd just started, and no clue that my family had been out lawyering bullies like her before she was ever handed her first board gavel. For days later, security footage would show her board members in handcuffs, Bethany screaming at the feds as they tore apart the empire she'd built. She thought I was just some broke veteran with a bum leg and nobody to back me up. What she didn't know was, my cousin once put a corrupt governor in prison. But let me back up a sec, because to really get it, you gotta see where this all began. That auction was the weirdest damn thing. I was 3 months out of the hospital, still learning how to walk again after an oil rig explosion took my left leg below the knee and my whole career as a diver with it. The settlement barely covered the years I'd lost, but after living in cramped boat cabins for a decade, for 100 grand felt like winning the lottery. Then I saw it. Emerald Cove Island, valued at almost $9 million, auction starting bid under 50 grand. Feds wanted it gone, fast, after seizing it from a Medicare fraudster who'd stashed God knows what there. I was the only bidder. Ferry captain who took me out just shook his head. Third owner this year. Nobody's lasted a month. I remember the mist on the water, the house rising up through it like a magazine cover, floor-to-ceiling glass, wraparound decks, a boathouse big enough to host a wedding. I bought Paradise for 47 grand. Or so I thought. But Paradise had lipstick on its glasses and steak in the fridge. Someone left in a hurry, but not before stocking the place like they'd be back. The wine cellar had 30 grand worth of bottles, all cataloged in a leather ledger. Suits still hanging in the closet, kitchen calendar with private scribbled every Thursday. Creepiest of all, a reinforced basement door, locked dead, power cut, but inside it was just empty concrete and a brand new industrial AC vent, like something got cleaned out fast. Second morning, I'm still trying to decide if I'm lucky or if I've landed in a thriller novel. That's when I hear engines, not fishermen, but something aggressive, all chrome and attitude. Bethany Morrison steps off her yacht, HOA badge gleaming, 6 board members in lockstep behind her with tablets and folders, all of them looking like they're there to serve papers or start a coup. She strides down my dock and tells me, straight-faced, that the last owner signed agreements making this island community property, her way of saying I wasn't welcome and never would be. When I push back, she smiles like a shark and slaps down documents so thick they might break your spirit just looking at them. Accept our buyout, or get ready for legal hell, she says, not even letting me photograph them. Your kind never lasts here. And when her eyes flicked to my prosthetic leg, there was no doubt what she meant. After that, every local on the mainland treated me like I was radioactive. Clerk at the hardware store, cashier at the grocery, even the guy at the bait shop. But then, in the parking lot, this old woman, Eleanor Patterson, slips me a flash drive and whispers, Thursday nights. Boats with no lights, important people. Someone needs to know. I get home and plug it in, hands shaking like I'm about to disarm a bomb. Photos and audio, years of it. Boats at midnight, people in tuxes, poker chips, and at least once, the sheriff bragging about his winnings. Then a document with 3 names, all highlighted. 2 disabled veterans who'd owned the island before me, both forced out. Both sold cheap to Morrison Development. All the pieces click. This isn't just about HOA power trips. This is organized, ugly, and I'm next. The attack started on day 3. Power cut at dawn, well water declared contaminated, dock condemned for structural issues, mail suspended for aggressive wildlife, even though the only animal I'd seen was a chipmunk. That afternoon, a blizzard of citations, illegal shed, it was on the blueprints, solar panel, environmental hazard, hadn't even been hooked up, noise violation for reading quietly on my porch. The best one? A $500 fine for my prosthetic leg clicking on the dock. Within hours, the fines topped 15 grand. That night, I couldn't sleep, so I sat on my deck, camera in hand. Around 2 in the morning, I spotted a silent line of boats slipping through the dark, no lights, 8 of them, heading to the far side of the island. I followed on foot, careful as I could be. They slipped into a rock formation and vanished, but up close, I found a hidden entrance. Beyond it, an underground lounge right out of Vegas. Chandeliers, leather chairs, a bar carved into the rock. Slot machines, roulette wheels, and in the center, Bethany herself, running the show like a mafia boss. Sheriff at the poker table, 2 judges with champagne. This was the beating heart of her operation. Next morning, I called my cousin Jordan, state attorney, Harvard Law, family legend. "You sitting down?" I said. "Bethany Morrison is running an illegal casino on my island." There was a pause, then rapid typing. He'd been chasing her for years, but could never get evidence. Now, with me as the legal owner, he had his opening. Get her admitting anything. On tape, on camera, anything that gives us cause. I staged my move. Posted on social media that I'd left the island for a medical emergency, using stock photos of hospital waiting rooms. But really, I was hiding in the panic room behind the reinforced door. Cameras everywhere, streaming to Jordan. At midnight, Bethany and her crew snuck in, talking openly. "Fourth time's the charm. These broken veterans never last long." She laughed, handing the sheriff his cash cut, talking about judges, about moving the operation. It was all there, crystal clear. Jordan moved fast. Within minutes, law enforcement boats surrounded the island, feds raiding the casino, Coast Guard blocking every route out. The look on Bethany's face when she was cuffed on my dock, pure rage, total disbelief. Sheriff tried for his gun, got 6 red dots on his chest instead. They arrested 31 people that night, including judges, CEOs, county commissioners, the whole rotten network. Seized over $1 million in cash, found enough evidence to fuel investigations for years. I came up from the panic room at sunrise, greeted Jordan with a hug and the kind of laugh you only get when you've survived something you shouldn't have. The media circus that followed was wild. My story, the other veterans' stories, all of it came out. How the HOA had systematically targeted and destroyed people, how the casino laundered $23 million in 8 years, how bribes and kickbacks kept the whole system running. The Sullivan family, the Reeves family, real people who'd been hounded out of their homes. Patricia Sullivan, in tears, testified how Bethany weaponized her husband's PTSD, pushed him until he broke. That part stuck with me. How greed and power don't just ruin finances, but ruin lives. The trials went fast, everyone flipping on each other. Bethany fought it, hired a mob lawyer, but it was hopeless. Jury came back in 3 hours, guilty on all counts. 22 years in federal prison, $45 million in restitution, no parole for 15 years. And that should have been the end, but it was only the beginning. The island didn't go back to being a private hideaway. We turned it into a rehab center for wounded vets, PTSD therapy, adaptive water sports, everything paid for with the money Bethany's crew had stolen. I taught guys with prosthetics how to kayak and scuba dive again. Patricia Sullivan scattered her husband's ashes in the lake he'd loved. Hundreds of veterans got help, got stronger, built a new life. The impact just kept rolling. Michigan passed the Cross Protection Act, making it a crime for HOAs to target disabled owners. Congress followed suit. Eleanor Patterson, the woman who'd slipped me the flash drive, became a national hero. The sheriff who tried to ruin us lost everything, went to prison, but Deputy Torres, the one honest cop, got his job back and helped run security for the center. Bethany's mansion became housing for homeless vets. Her kitchen served free meals. Her bathrooms brought dignity to people who'd lost it all. Her husband died in prison. She sent me a letter from her cell, blaming me for everything, framed it in my office as a reminder. Evil doesn't disappear, it just changes faces. 3 years after that first morning, we held the first annual Sovereignty Day. Veterans from everywhere, celebrating not just the end of a criminal empire, but a beginning. Independence from people who used rules and laws as weapons. That's what I tell every new vet who comes through our doors, like the young Marine last week. Both legs gone, scared to hope. "Why'd you fight?" he asked. "Couldn't you have just left?" "Because somebody had to," I tell him. Because once you start fighting for people who can't fight for themselves, it stops being about you. and starts being about all of us who ever got told your kind doesn't belong. Bethany Morrison thought she was evicting a nobody, but she was just inviting a reckoning. So what would you have done? Fight back or walk away? Drop your answer in the comments. Who was right? Who was wrong? And what does justice really look like in a world where power's so easy to abuse? Because the truth is, every time someone stands up to corruption, a little more hope grows back where greed tried to root itself. And if you've ever been bullied by a board, harassed for being different, or threatened for standing your ground, maybe this story is proof you don't have to take it. Maybe it's your turn to fight, too.